G'day, are you here to find out what the drivers drove to the Spanish Grand Prix? Well, I can tell you they were the dirtiest cars I've ever seen in an F1 car park. And amongst them, a smart car and 3 Ferraris. Shall we start with our race winner? Yes, a Ford Mustang GT. He's driven this car before, and also in the same car was his teammate Sergio Perez. And you'll notice how dirty this car is. In fact, all of them were absolutely filthy. Why? Well, on Thursday we had rain, and with it came a whole lot of Saharan sand. Apparently, this is a thing in this part of the world. The sand gets blown over Europe, it rains, and everything is covered. I couldn't believe how dirty my cameras were at one stage. And were the cars cleaned after the rain? Some were. In fact, I think it's only a couple. Most of them were filthy the whole weekend. 2 of the cars that were cleaned were the Ferraris of the Ferrari drivers. Let me run you through these Romas. Carlos Sainz in this rich red Spider denoting that it is a soft top. He did actually drive a soft top into the track going back in 2022, this red Ferrari, with his trainer in the back seat. And Carlos's car was one of those that was given a wash. Next up is teammate Charles Leclerc in a blue Roma. I'm not even sure what shade of blue this is, but I want to point this out. This is his wing mirror. It has marker pen on it. Now, I'm going to hazard a guess here and suggest that a fan has caught them at the lights, perhaps, or when he's stationary, and asked for an autograph, and in doing so, perhaps they passed the pen through and marked that car. Now, I don't know how difficult that is to get off. I rubbed it with my finger just to see if I could move it, and it was, to my mind, well and truly entrenched on that paintwork, and both of those cars had Italian number plates on them. If you're wondering what sort of drive the drivers had to the track, well, if they were staying in the city, getting out to the track was probably in the order of 35 minutes. A lot longer going back on the Friday and Saturday nights. And this is the route that they take when they come into the track. So next year, if you're looking to perhaps see a driver arrive, you want to be out at this roundabout here to get your best chance of seeing them come and go. If drivers weren't staying in the city and doing that 35-minute drive, they were probably a kilometre away in a secure area in motorhomes. And coming up next race in Austria, I'm going to go and visit some of these motorhomes and give you a tour. I'm going to do it Wednesday afternoon in Vienna. Well, not Vienna, it's actually at Spielberg, where once again they park a certain distance away because F1 won't allow them to have those motorhomes inside the track anymore. It should be a great video, and I would suggest right now would be a great time for you to subscribe if you haven't done so you don't miss it. I'll now talk about the Alpine drivers, and were they driving something special this race? No, just Renault Espace people movers, because they can fit a number of people. Certainly they do have that A110, but it's a 2-seater car, so if they have any more than 2 people that need to get into the track, that is a waste of time. Next up, let's go to Steak, Valtteri Bottas. Now, he normally rides a bike, and on Thursday it was wet, so he actually came in this Audi Q8. No, not the City, the Audi car, Q8. I hadn't seen this car before, and I had a bit of a wander around it. I was blown away by these. These are e-tron virtual mirrors. So I did some research on this, and effectively you have to unlearn looking out the window to see what's happening behind you. Instead, you look at this little screen, which is inside the car on the right and left. And why have they gone with this? Well, it's sexy, and it reduces air turbulence. So that would make it quicker and more economical, I imagine. Not by much, but certainly better it be more economical than less economical. And Zhou Guanyu was in the exact same car. On a couple of occasions prior, I have seen both of the McLaren drivers roll up in McLarens, and I actually suggested in one of my videos earlier in the week that I indeed expected to see them in McLarens. Well, I was disappointed. In fact, on the Thursday, their trainers rolled up in the drivers' cars. So we had Kim Keedle driving this Jaguar F-Pace.
He's got it, yeah.
And John Malvin driving this one. But where were the drivers? At that point I thought, right, we're going to see them in McLarens because they can perhaps only take 1 passenger. But in the end, they arrived in a people mover for some reason. They must have been doing a function somewhere and come direct to the track. So no McLarens to report. Oh, and what will a Jaguar F-Pace set you back? In the UK, about £47,000. That's about $60,000 US, and it is a very nice car to drive. I can tell you that because I have actually had a crack in one of these.
It's a Jag.
If you watch the F1 telecast regularly, from time to time you will see me wearing this, my new bucket hat. This one's the grey version, and there are still 10 of those left out of the second order, so if you're keen to get your hands on one, you will need to be quick. They are available right now at the shop at kimillman.com. And if it fits snugly on you, we have the same size heads. I mentioned there were 3 Ferraris in the car park, so who was driving the third? It wasn't Fred Vasseur. Indeed, it was Marc Genet, who is a Le Mans 24-hour winner. He's a commentator for Sky Sports in Italy, and I was delighted to see him rolling up in this Ferrari, which I think might be his own car. And still on the subject of other drivers, I want to go to this car. This little smart car is so small. Not something we see too often in Australia, but in Europe, it's a big thing. And who was driving this one? Does this give you any clue? Pedro Della Rosa. I had a chat with him afterwards and said, what is that thing like to drive? And he said, it's like riding a bike. You can pretty much go everywhere in the city. And oftentimes you can park it head onto the curb instead of parallel. So that means you take up less space. Lance Stroll, was he driving a DBX? Of course he was, as was Fernando Alonso. And Lance Stroll actually flew in on a helicopter one day to the track because he'd been to see a doctor and was late for a fan engagement, which he missed, and you might have seen my video where the team was subsequently given a reprimand for not contacting the medical delegate and advising them that he would not be at that function. Let's go to the VCARB drivers, and both of them driving Honda Civic Type Rs. Yuki had a red one, and actually I was out in the car park on Sunday when this white van just in front of it reversed to park and actually hit Yuki's car with his back bumper. No damage done, but a few of us were standing around waiting for drivers, and we all looked at each other and said, did you hear something? And sure enough, it turns out they did touch. And Daniel Ricciardo also driving the same model car, but 2 different colours. He came in some days in black and some days in blue. I can't tell you why, but that was the deal. Next up, let's talk Kevin Magnussen. He originally was going to book his car through F42, but there was some drama with his private jet arriving into Barcelona because of wind problems. So in the end, the team wasn't sure which airport he'd land in, so they ended up getting him a separate car. This was a BMW 118i. This is a tiny car because Kevin normally drives very big SUVs. But have a look on the back left bumper here, a nasty scratch. I hope that was noted on the rental contract when he picked the car up, or perhaps did it happen under his control? A question that I will ask him in Austria. And that 118i does 0 to 100 kilometres now in just under 8 seconds, which is, well, that's sloppy, isn't it, really, for an F1 driver to be driving that sort of car. Retails for about 40,000 euros in Europe. His teammate, Nico Hülkenberg, was not in a BMW. He was driving a Volvo XC60. Have a look at this picture of Nico getting out of the car and giving me a fun look. I do get my fair share of quirky looks from this marvellous German driver who will be going to Stake next year. Were the Mercedes drivers rolling up in something special? Well, yes, they're lovely cars, there's no doubt about that. But it was nothing out of the ordinary, nothing we haven't seen before, with George in a GLE 63S and Lewis in the Mercedes EQE 43. Now, before I get on to the last pairing, if you didn't see my post-race video from beautiful Barcelona here, you wouldn't have heard about the Hock Tui girl. So imagine my surprise when I'm out in the driver's car park and there's a team car. Will I say the team? No, I won't say the team because it might embarrass them. In fact, it will embarrass them. But I come across this one team car and I walk around the back and I see this on the back of the car. This is a vinyl sticker. This car is being driven by people from one of the 10 F1 teams. And I know a number of you have been very keen to find out which team it was that had that on the back of their car. I can tell you it was. I wonder what their team principal would have to say about that. Final 2 drivers, let's go to Williams. I'll draw your attention to this from David Coulthard.
Which Mercedes engine-powered driver this car could belong to? Yep, you're right, Logan Sargent. Making contact without even being on track.
I'm not sure that that's Logan's car. Now, it could be, but my notes say he was driving the black Mercedes C200D. So I think it might be a little bit unfair of David to have a crack at Logan for that, if indeed that's not his car, he was driving the black one. Now, I've just had clarification that I was correct. Logan was not driving the white car, he was driving in the black car. So David, unfortunately, has that all arse about. And what was I driving from Barcelona to the track and back? Well, a rather basic Ford Puma, which had even worse performance figures than Kevin's 118i. That does 0 to 100 in nearly 10 seconds. You now know a lot more about what the drivers drove than someone who has never watched this video. Now, as a reward for me, could you please go and subscribe? Costs you nothing, and you will get notifications if you want about future videos like that one coming up about the drivers' motorhomes. And if you want to grab one of these bucket hats, go to kimellman.com, click on the shop and go to bucket hats. Thanks for watching and stay passionate.